I wasn't shooting anybody. I was on the street corner selling drugs.
The night before I got saved, I had a beer in one hand and a joint in the other.
And I knew I was living in hell.
I was in church, but not really in church.
Like, man, I really need to get it together.
I had no desire for God.
I was
no
pressures I was putting on myself. I was very all about me.
Put your faith and trust in Jesus.
Myself
Christ, my
the
mom.
most
Freely
rewarding
seeking, you
thing.
have to seek with your whole heart.
And change you and mold you if you just present yourself.
Hello again, welcome to my story, Journey to Salvation, where we get to hear from regular people their story of how they made their way to salvation, their life of salvation. And we have another good one for you. I'm here with, why do you laugh? It is a good one.
Yeah.
With dear friend Rob, how are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Thank you for doing this. I think your story is great.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, and so we're going to jump in. Why don't you tell us about life BC, life before Christ?
Life before Christ. Mm-hmm. Wow. I can't remember life before Christ.
Oh, well, that's good. But you don't have to for this
I'm not.
story.
I wasn't like you and Brandon, pastors' kids growing up. But I will say.
Well, they say they're the worst ones.
Well, I would tell you that growing up, my mom used to take us to church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. It was real quiet. You always knew the end of the sermon when the pastor started humming. So, we would just get ready to go after that. And we didn't really get much out of it. Mm-hmm. I even remember getting baptized as Methodist. But later, when I found that word, got baptized again.
Okay.
So, but I would tell you that that's what I did up until high school. And I guess it was around high school that I started wilding out a little bit. And hanging out in all the wrong places, going to Martin Luther King Park every weekend.
Oh, I've heard about that place.
Join the military. Oh, yes. Set it off. We had a club for every night of the week.
Oh, my gosh.
And then joined the military, and they stationed me right back in San Antonio, which was a mistake, So I started going right back to the same old places.
Went to your places where comfortable,
doing
where you
all
knew.
the stuff again. And so it wasn't in later till I got stationed somewhere else. Now, during my time in the military, when I first came in, I would say that it necessarily wasn't before Christ. I always had a belief in God, but I definitely wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. I wasn't thinking the way I should,
right,
and acting the way I should act, and started to separate myself. And that stayed that way for quite some time.
Okay. Do you think, or maybe why you would say you kind of walked away from, because you grew up in the church, but you slowly started, or as the years go, you slip away. Do you know why, or can you pinpoint a reason maybe why you lost your relationship or didn't have that relationship at an early age, I should say?
Then I would say my rationale would have been I was just having fun.
Okay.
Now I would say my rationale would be that I really never knew. And, that's hard to admit, but I really never knew Christ, I think. I said that I did. I thought I did, but what I know now wasn't what I felt when I was younger. I always believed in God, but I really didn't know about faith. I didn't know about spirituality. I didn't know about the Holy Spirit. I didn't know about the Holy Spirit speaking through me and speaking to me. Those weren't things that I had experienced as a young kid.
Okay. So. And when was it? Because you said you didn't know. When was the time? Do you remember the moment when you said the light came on? Now I know what I was doing then. Was not living a life for Christ. Like, when did you realize and when did the light come on for you?
I hear that a lot from a lot of people that I just knew. It happened. It was like, the organ started playing and it wasn't like that for
the
me.
light,
It was
the
a
sky
gradual
cracked
deal.
open.
It was a gradual deal for me. I started going through some things.
Okay.
And the way that I addressed it, it was just all on me, And now I would probably call it depression.
Oh, okay.
And I knew what I was doing didn't feel right. So I wanted to start cleaning it up a little bit. And it was gradually over a period of time, I saw slight changes in myself. But if you're asking me what made me turn the corner, was Lamonde.
Aww.
It really was. It really was.
You hear that? He giving a shout out. Giving a shout out to his wife.
She did it. She did it. We started dating. It started getting more serious, and I knew what I was supposed to do in preparation for marriage, because my dad had always showed me, how a person's supposed to be married and prepare themselves for marriage. And even when I went to Mississippi to ask her to marry me and come back, I had already, put down earnest money on a house. And,
Okay.
I was ready. When she came back, we
That's
were going to
right.
move into a house. And she went and saw the house and said, "I'm not moving in here." Apparently, it wasn't the right house. So then we did find one on the other side of town, brand new. The one I was saying we were going to move into was used. And she found a new one that she liked more. And I was like, well, we could get this one. So I was like, okay. So I told the real estate agent, this is the one we want. We're going to get it. And when it was time to move in, she's like, I'm not moving in.
Oh.
I'll go stay with my aunt. I'm like, you don't want me to move in this house by myself. You might want to ask around. And so she was like, we're not married. I can't move into the house with you. That's not the way that's supposed to go.
That's right.
And I was like, well, we need to get married. So my brother wound up marrying us
Wow.
at my mom's house in the living room.
Oh, that's right, because your brother's a judge.
Because my brother was a judge.
Wow.
So no big wedding, none of that. And it was all in an effort to make sure we moved in that house together.
See, and that, this is about my story. But when a man truly wants you, ladies, he's going to do what he needs to do
Boom.
to make that happen. Okay, now back to my story.
Well, and my brother's never married anybody else because he's like, I'm batting 100, so I'm not. I'm done. I'm out the game. I don't
I'm out
do
the
it
game.
no
Drop the mic.
Yeah.
I did it, and I'm 100%. My marriages are 100%.
There it is. There
One.
it is. So then she moves in. She was like, we got to find a church. And I wasn't going to church, So I was like, okay. We went to a church, and we got ready to join that church. And when she said we needed to join, so they sang the whole service. So afterwards, I said, let's go join. And she was like, we're not going to join after they just sang, Rob. We got to wait for someone to preach, and then we go join. I was like, okay. So we eventually wind up joining the church. And where I was there, but I really wasn't learning again. I felt like
Back when
I was
a
kid. So I said, this isn't it for me. And I said, we got to find another church to go to. And literally on the way home, the phone rings. And it was my sister. And she said, hey, Rob, I just left this church. And this guy just started a church. And I mean, I'm telling you, Rob, you'd love him. He's just like you. And, I was like, okay. She's like, you need to come to the church. I said, we ain't got nothing to do next Sunday. So we will be there next Sunday. And literally, it was the Sunday after Now Word started. And
wow.
We came and I heard Pastor Keith. I was like, this is it.
Oh,
this is
wow.
it. And we've been here ever since.
And so what about his teaching, what about being here continued your growth or your change, you think?
It was literally the way that he delivered. It was the practical application. I was able to understand what he was saying, and I was able to use that. I was able to go back and study it. It was just so simplistic for me.
Wow.
And I understood every word. It wasn't a hooping and hollering experience. It was straight up educational.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I was growing every Sunday.
Wow.
Every Sunday.
So what things did you start, once you gave God your all, what sort of things did you start to see change in your life? Like maybe characteristics or life situations. What things do you think you saw when you changed your mindset and gave your...
I go back to your mom, Sister Demetrius, when she says, and your dad, we just put down everything. It wasn't me. I just put down everything.
Right.
But I will tell you that certain thing. I mean, my friendships started to change.
Okay.
I didn't go back to the old haunts. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to hang out.
Okay.
It wasn't all about studying the Bible, but I really wanted to correct some of the things that I was doing in the way that I was walking.
Wow.
I remember distinctly one time when LaMoney and I were driving over by our house, and I was kind of a hothead back then. I was, and this dude cut us off, and I had LaMoney and Quad in the truck, and so I sped up, cut him off, and jumped out the truck, and
A little bit of road rage,
and
just a little bit.
And LaMoney just stared at me, and I was like, I gotta change. I can't. I got a wife and a kid, And I started to walk out my walk differently because of what I was hearing. And
Wow.
that's not the way a man carries himself. So.
Wow. So what would you say maybe what is some of a struggle, or maybe something that you still, that you're in your walk, even though, like you said, being a Christian, but we still have things that we struggle with in our day-to-day journey. So what is something maybe you say that you're still working on, continue to work on in your walk?
Thoughts. I learned through Now Word that, anybody can pay their tithes and, do what you're supposed to do.
Do the rule, check off the rule,
check
the
off the
checklist,
rules.
yeah.
But the last rule, thou shalt not covet, has less to do with you walking out something and more to do with the desires of your heart and the way that you think. And to think right, to have your heart in the right place, to feel conviction when you're not thinking the right way. That's the part that I work on.
And that's good. That's a good one. See, that's an intellectual person that we're talking to right now.
You got me just spilling the beans.
Yes, that's what we do. That is what we do here on My Story. So what do you think is the biggest blessing, the most rewarding thing since you have fully committed to your life in Christ?
Ooh, Jesus.
Okay, one of the most.
For me, it all comes from the same place, faith. Before, when I would go through circumstances, have issues, it was all about me and my ability to get me or my family or whomever out of it. There was no depending on God. There was no, hey, I'm bigger than this problem that you're facing. Let me handle that for you. It was about how I could negotiate and get through
Get out of it.
That brings on depression. And I would have never called it that back then. I would have just said, man, I'm
really upset about
going
it.
through right now.
Yeah.
I got, But I remember distinctly when I went to the doctor and they told me I had cancer, and LaMoney's sitting right there. And I froze. And then she touched me and she's like, we got this. And we were like, okay. We prayed about it, and I was like, okay, what do we do next? What do we have to do? And it wasn't me trying to figure out a way. It's just God will get us through it.
Yeah.
And then, being married, you go through stuff, and God will get us through it.
Right.
So
really
dependence,
leaning, and trusting Him. And I think, too, that's good that you say as a man, because I think men are fixers by nature. And so being able to let go, some of the things you can fix, right? And some of the things we do, And so you're getting rid of that natural nature to fix it and being vulnerable. Because men, we talked about that at church a couple weeks ago. PK said, men, that's not a comfortable, vulnerability is not a comfortable thing, but it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to let your guard down. It's okay because God already knows, right, that we can't fix it, that it's bigger than us. He just wants us to allow Him to do it. That's it. I already know, but I'm not going to force my way in.
That's it.
I just need you to let me do it. Yeah.
And let God.
Yes.
I know it sounds cliche, but trust me when I tell you, once you do, you'll be like, oh my God.
Exactly. Which leads us in to our last thing. What would you say to someone out there right now who is on the fence, who's maybe thinking about giving their life to Christ, maybe going to the clubs 7 nights a week in that life, doing that. But it's no accident that you're watching this today and you're watching Rob's story. So what would you say to that person?
I would say I had people approach me during that period in my life where I was just wilding. And they'd be like, oh, you need to pray right now with me. We need to, I'm like, okay, you're scaring me a little bit.
Doing a little too much.
Yeah, you're doing too much. And I'm not ready was my response. Let me do what I got to do. And then when I get ready, I'll come. That's not how it works. Come, and then God will get you where you need to get.
Yes.
If you wait until you stop doing all the stuff you're not supposed to do, stop thinking the way you shouldn't think, stop feeling the way that you shouldn't feel, then you'll never come.
Exactly.
I would tell someone, just come, especially to this church. Just come and listen. And it will work on you.
Exactly.
Like Novocaine. It ain't going to be quick. But
Right.
when it comes, you're going to be in
Boom. That's it. Once that light turns on and that, you know what I mean? Like, God was so smart in how he said, we are the light. It's like he is the light. Once you see it, you can't turn away. Once you get it and you get that revelation and you get that conviction, like you said, it makes you transform. And if we could do it ourselves, then we don't need him.
And that's the key. But it's when you're in it, you can't, if you could do it by yourself, you wouldn't need it.
You wouldn't need him. Exactly.
So just come.
Exactly.
Come. Still smoking, drinking, whatever, come and listen.
Exactly.
And all that stuff will start to fall off.
Exactly. Get to know him and you will want to.
Right.
You will want to, because when you know him and who he is and what he's done, it will make you want to,
Just know that it might not be that automatic light switch
But
scenario. Things will start to fall off.
Exactly.
You'll be like, I don't feel comfortable saying that. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel comfortable feeling that way. I need to ask for forgiveness for that.
Exactly. Transformation happens all different ways. Like you said, some is immediate and some gradual over time. But even the immediate, we're still day to day because all have fallen short, right? So every day we have to get in our word, read, study to not sin on a daily basis,
right?
And so we want you guys to understand that it's a day-to-day walk with Christ. It's a journey. That's why we call it My Story Journey to Salvation and Through Salvation. All right. Well, thank you, sir. That was so good. You were he laughs, but you were so good. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being honest. Yes.
All right.
I know. You see how it goes so fast?
LaMonday, I'm sorry. I told all our business.
You told good business, though. He told really good business. And if you want to know more about Christ, if you want to serve the God that we're serving and that we're talking about, you just visit nowword.org, click connect, and one of our leaders and ministers can get with you. We can pray with you. We can talk to you. We are here at Now Word waiting for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Yay! I'm glad you did it.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will see you next time on My Story. Bye-bye.